What is up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back. Sooner Surge, a podcast that tells it like it is. And it's here. Fall camp has officially arrived as the Sooners have started practice now. And that's going to lead to this video, which is some questions that maybe we have going into fall camp. Also, talking about maybe some position battles that are intriguing and who's going to win those battles and the competitiveness of those. But hey, before we get started with the video, couple of things. Check out the Fan Stop, thefanstop.com. They got great officially licensed merchandise. You can use code SURGE to get 10% off your first 3 months. Check them out, thefanstop.com. Also, very important to subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. That's why as this season is ramping up, when we go live, when we put out a video, anything like that, you're notified. So do that. Jackson, let's get started, man. I mean, it's here finally after all the talk of the last 3-4 months. It's finally here. And maybe let's start off with this, Jackson. Two biggest questions you have going into fall camp here.
I think there's many, Jay, but I think two questions for me that are really going to determine how this season goes. And the first thing is, who is going to give that tight end room the needed consistent production this year? Because under John Finley, outside of Braden Willis, there hasn't really been much production at all. Hasn't been very good. Quite frankly, it's been pretty horrible, Jay, for Oklahoma standards at the tight end room. So is Caden Helms? I know we've heard the talk that he's been the most consistent guy in camp. You've heard the coaches say that he's maybe your best all-around guy. Is Caden Helms going to be your starter? Whenever the coaches spoke yesterday, you heard Arbuckle talk very glowingly about Jaron Kanik and the work he's put in. I know that somebody, if Jerome was on here, he'd be very high on. So is Will Huggins, who the talk it seemed to be about in spring, is he the guy that starts? I mean, he's a huge guy, can block. So who's going to be your starter there, taking the first snaps in the first game of the year? And how consistent is that tight end room going to be this year overall as a unit?
Yeah, that's one that a lot of people I think have questions about. For me, I'm going to start. One of my first big questions going into fall camp is O-line and who are the five going to be? And I think, this O-line I think is going to be a lot better. I'm under the assumption, I know a lot of people have been kind of down on Bill Beatenbow, but Bill Beatenbow, one of the best developers there is, and he did not forget how to coach O-line. I mean, they have talent there. I think you got to have some, the offense last year with just the way they were doing things. I don't think it helped anybody out on offense, including the offensive line. So, but I'm interested to see kind of their growth from last year. Some of the guys that played, like Sexton was banged up last year, but Heath Ozida, Logan Howland, see what Fabechi does. You got EPL making that next step to this year. And then you got the youngsters as well and the transfers. A lot of moving pieces with the incoming freshmen. They're very talented. You got the transfers that came in, guys like Derek Simmons. I mean, there's a lot of pieces there, but I'm interested in, my question is, who are the five going to be? And I know maybe the first game you're going to play a lot, but I think they will know by game one, like they will have an idea of who their five are. And that's kind of what I want to watch as the fall camp kind of goes through here. The question I have is, who are the five going to be?
Yeah, Jay, I would say for me, my second question is going to be who on the offense at wide receiver is going to end up being wide receiver 2? I think that's been a common theme for us, as the questions mainly come from the offensive side of the ball. Deion Burks, you would presume he's going to be wide receiver 1. Is wide receiver 2? Javonte Gibson, if he's back by week 1, maybe, we don't know when really he's going to return. Is he going to be that guy that's wide receiver 2? I think Jermichael Carter is a very slept-on name, a guy they got out of the spring portal. He's someone that I think is going to produce a lot for Oklahoma this year. Keontez Lewis. Is it going to be Elijah Thomas? I know a lot of people are high on him, Jay. So I just think, is it Zion Kearney, who Arbuckle talked very glowingly about as well. So there's so many names there at wide receivers. Who's going to be that second guy outside of Deion Burks? Is there even going to be a second guy, or is it just going to be a unit of production in which you maybe have five or six guys that are going to go for 300 to 400 yards and just have it be a unit that's going to be really consistent with a ton of depth there. So this is kind of a preview year for Emmett Jones too. I think we've seen the recruiting he's done. He's done solid there. Now it's guys need to go on the field and produce.
Yeah, that's true. It's time to produce, time to put up or shut up. For my second question here, I mean, you could go a lot of different angles. You could go linebacker, defensive back. I'm going to go with this, and I don't think it's been talked about a whole lot, but Brent Venables as a defensive coordinator. My question is, what is he going to do schematically and with that defense to get everybody they have that's a playmaker out there on the field? Because I think they have a lot of weapons on defense. And when you talk about guys that have transferred in, Kendall Daniels, when you talk about the back end, when you got guys like Powers and Boganowski, how do you get them on the field when you have Bowen and RSJ and you got Dolby at Cheetah or cornerback? You got Daniels on the linebackers. You got Kobe, Kip, Sammy O. I mean, there's just – and then defensive end, the rotations. I just think how much 3-down linemen are you going to play compared to 4-down? There's so much that I'm very intrigued to see what BV does with that, because he's back to calling the defense, and we all know he's very multiple. He likes to be multiple. He likes to run different things. I'm interested to see what he does to get the playmakers and the guys out there on the field all together at the same time. His best kind of unit to get, okay, maybe it's you're playing 5 defensive backs because you want to get Colby and Kendall Daniels out. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm interested to see that. Let's shift gears a little, Jackson, talk about position battles. Let's pick you pick one position group that you're excited about seeing the battle and what's going to take place in the competitiveness of that position group.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting ones, Jay, but I think one that is not talked about maybe enough is RB2 behind Jaden Ott, because you have Taylor Tatum. We know the ceiling's there for him. If he cannot fumble the ball, there's a good chance he plays a ton this year for Oklahoma with just the talent and the ceiling he has. Is it X-Rob? Is it Javonte Barnes, who we've seen flashes when he's healthy? He can be a really good back. So it's who's going to be the RB2 that's so crucial, because DeMarco Murray, I think the one complaint that we've had with him is there's just been no consistent rotation since he's gotten to Oklahoma. Outside of Eric Gray, it's kind of just been a lot of guys at random times doing random things, it feels like. So who is going to be the RB2 behind Jaden Ott? Because I think we all agree that Jaden Ott is RB1. And we all know that he's probably the best back in the SEC, if not for sure in the top 2. So I think it's just who's going to solidify that RB2 spot behind Jaden Ott.
Yeah, and I would say defensive back, Jackson. When you look at defensive back, injuries has kind of plagued this unit for a few years, with Gentry Williams being banged up. Last year you had the Jacoby Johnson moving him to wide receiver, which I think really hindered him playing much at defensive back, and he didn't play much at wide receiver. So I think it kind of hindered him a little bit. But you look at it, if Gentry Williams healthy, I think everybody thinks he's an NFL talent. And so that's the key, is the injuries. You have Eli Bowen a little banged up, I guess. But that battle, I think at defensive backs, going to be very competitive. I mean, you got guys like, you got Gentry and you got Eli Bowen. I think maybe a lot of people, maybe a lot of fans would say those would be the 2 starters if they're healthy. Now,
Right. Yeah.
But you got guys like Jacoby Johnson, he is an athletic freak. He's really good. I think you got him. You got Devin Jordan, who hasn't played much at Oklahoma, but I think has a very high ceiling. I've mentioned it before. I watched him at Union. Very talented kid. In fact, I said last night on our live show, Jackson, my hot take was I think he starts game 1 opposite Gentry, but
Wow.
a very hot take. But you got him. You got Courtney Guillory. Name's been thrown out there a lot. I'm missing
guy that's been talked about.
I'm sure I'm missing guys, but they definitely have some depth there, but not really depth that has played a whole lot. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do at that position. Because you think about it, Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams, outside of them, who has played a lot at Oklahoma in defensive backfield? Not many. Now,
corner.
Very interesting that Brent Venables said at press conference that Dolby will play some outside corner. So, and we all know he played that in JUCO and was really good at it. So I think there's a good mix there. It's just who they're going to end up with and maybe what are the rotations like. That'll be a very competitive room, I think.
Yeah, I think something that's maybe a battle that's not being talked about a ton is Derek Simmons versus Michael Fasusi. I think Derek Simmons, I think he's kind of gotten swept under the rug because Michael Fasusi, the 5-star tackle, right? The chance to be a first-round pick. Bill Bedenbaugh's best crew he's ever gotten since he's came to Oklahoma. But Derek Simmons was a baller at Western Carolina. He wasn't just somebody that was just a decent starting tackle. He was one of the top tackles in the portal to go get Oklahoma. They got him. So I think with his experience, I think that Derek Simmons, I wonder if he's just a player that's not being talked about enough, because along the offensive line, you hear the main talk about Fasusi, you hear Jacob Sexton, and EPL. Those are probably the 3 offensive line names that you hear the most. And Derek Simmons, I think there's a chance he gets himself into maybe NFL draft talks if he has a good year, because was super good at Western Carolina. And if Oklahoma's offensive line, Jay, can just be solid, there's no reason this offense isn't top 30, top 25 in the country by the end of the year with the weapons that they have in John Mateer.
Yeah, I mean, they got weapons. John Mateer, that quarterback, JadenO'Neal, running back, Deion Burks, if he pans out from what people thought he was when he came last year. They got guys. Offensive line has to be better. I think everybody knows that. You got to win in the trenches, defensive line and offensive line, if you want to be competing for an SEC championship. And I think most OU fans, that's what they want, competing for an SEC championship. A lot of positivity coming out of Sooner Nation as far as national respect, a little bit more people talking about Oklahoma this year than they were last year. So I'm excited as the days are getting closer to kickoff. Under a month left till kickoff. Can't wait. Hey, you're going to want to be subscribed to the Sooner Surge as we get closer to the season. A lot of stuff, a lot of content coming your way. Please do that. Also check out the FanStop, thefanstop.com. Jackson, been good. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.